What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I hope you like this video. Listen, this is... Oh, shoot. Hold on. Let me put the right camera on because that glare is going to be killing me. But this is your review for Heart and Hustle Season 1, Episodes 3 and 4. So, listen. This is pre-recorded because I got behind. So, I'm trying to give you guys 2 episodes at one time. But I have good news as to why I'm rushing through it like this. I'm getting the camera connected. Sorry, y'all. But I have good news why I'm giving y'all a 2-for-1. Okay, this is why I'm giving y'all a 2-for-1 like this. I'm giving y'all a 2-for-1 like this pre-recorded because we have a new panel starting tonight. It's going to be the Heart and Hustle panel. It's with myself, Josiah TV, and giving you the real tea. So I wanted to go ahead and get caught up before we get to the panel tonight, so you guys will have my opinion on the 2 episodes before we get into it. So let me get into these last episodes, episode 3 and 4. So we start episode 3 off with, we have Chloe talking to Ro about what she found out at the rodeo that allegedly, oh, Lord, I forget the baby's name now. The one who husband sleeping in the other bedroom, that basically she was saying, you know, well, she couldn't have a husband like me. She can't get the caliber of husband like me. That's why she don't think my husband is cute. Y'all remember that whole your husband's not handsome conversation, right? So I'm sure she's just going to stick that in her back pocket for later. But she kind of give it to us later on in this episode. But we'll get there when we get there. So then we have... the ladies going to the spa, right? So, Labrina, this is Labrina, the big girl. Anyway, I believe it's Labrina. Labrina has a spa, and so she invited the ladies to the spa, minus Chloe and the other girl. So that she didn't want no drama, right? She didn't want no Latoya. That's her, Latoya. Okay, Latoya's the big girl. Because she didn't want no drama, right? So while they're at the spa, Labrina encourages Latoya to call old boy that they saw down to the rodeo because she was like, what's up with him? Who is he? And she said, well, you know, he's a client. I mean, not a client, but she knows him through work. She said, we've worked on some stories together, and basically they just seemed like the 2 of them had flirted in the past, but they just never took it to that next level. They never really actually, you know how people be like, you know, we should get a drink sometime, and you say, yeah, we should get a drink sometime, but you don't never really go get that drink. It seemed like it was kind of a situation like that. So Labrina was like, girl, call him. Do you have his number? She was like, yeah, I have his number. She said, call him now and ask him to go out. So she calls the guy, and he, you know, and they do that back and forth. Well, I got this to do. Well, you know, it's my birthday weekend, so I'm going to be doing this. So basically, they agree to go out on a date in 2 weeks. Now, some of the other ladies were like, why you wait? You should do it now. You should do it now. To me, I feel like she was already being forward enough by calling him and asking him out. And I'm not saying that it's not okay for women to be forward, because clearly, if she was waiting on him, it would have never happened. So I'm not saying that I think it's a problem, because I don't think it's a problem. I think in this day and age, especially when you hear men talk and men explain why they don't always approach women, some of them have some legitimate reasons, right? So I'm okay with her approaching him. I'm okay with her coming and having the conversation with him. I just feel like let him make the next move. You've let him know you're interested, right? So, hey, let's go out for a drink. He was like, cool, let's do it. Oh, but this weekend is my birthday weekend. He might already have plans. He already has stuff in motion to say, no, let's do it today. I feel like that was a little bit much. Now, that's me. The next person might say, no, it's not too much. Like, if you're ready, let's go. What we waiting on? Again, you call somebody out of the blue. You don't know if they legitimately have some things they got going on, especially when it's a birthday. See, as you get older, a birthday isn't just a day for some people. Some people, a birthday is an event. He might be going out of town. He might have a brunch planned, a day party planned, an evening party planned. He may have a weekend getaway planned. He may have a flight planned. Like, we don't know what all his birthday entails. Okay. So then, we see that the ladies, Ro lets the ladies know, that, she is trying to be a little more vulnerable, that, she went to therapy to, kind of, no, I apologize. Rewind. That's later on. Ro and Latoria, they get to talking about sex and stuff, and she lets it be known that she hasn't had sex in 3 years. And so, Ro was like, well, girl, what you been doing? Like, do you use toys? I mean, what do you do? Now, Latoria was like, I'm a woman of God. I don't talk about those kinds of things. Ro took offense to it. I really think that she was just playing. I don't think she was that deep, but I do think, look, y'all, everybody ain't comfortable talking about sex. It just is what it is. And just because you're comfortable talking about sex, and just because you're like, I'm here with my girlfriends, what's the big deal? It is clear that these women are not all friends on the same level. It is clear that some of these women are closer than others. So I feel like Ro and Lataria, are not as close. So I don't feel like she felt comfortable really getting into all of her sexual business with that woman. Now, Ro got offended and was like, well, damn, I feel like now I got to walk on eggshells and I got to watch what I say. But I don't feel like she came at you. I just feel like she was like, girl, that just ain't me. Now, on the flip side, Minerva, y'all, me and these names, she was offended because she felt like Lataria kept making comments about her looking young at her age. Again, y'all, because these women are not really friends, that close of friends, they probably know each other. Some of them within the friend group are probably friends, but because they are not all close with each other, I think that they're getting to know each other. Now, Manura, because she worked in a male-dominated field, I think the young thing is a trigger for her, because it was probably a word that was used to dismiss her in her job. She was an electrical engineer. She was out in the field. She was probably around big men, maybe white men. So she had to be, y'all know how it is as a black woman, as a petite black woman, as a young looking black woman. Because, girl, you look young. And I understand that for some people, they might be like, well, that's a compliment. Why would she be offended by that? Like most people would be, would take that as a compliment. I get that. But it's very easy to not take it as a compliment when you've had to fight against it in your day-to-day life. But again, it's a conversation. And I feel like later on, Maneuver with her child, she tried to have that conversation, but it just didn't really go well because, like Lataria said, I feel like I'm saying that girl name wrong. But like she said, because she was always the big girl, she was always seen as aggressive, right? She was the aggressive black woman. And so when she said things, it seemed like she was always saying things. So she has her own, triggers and demons and baggage. And so does Eminem. I'm going to just call her Eminem. And so does she. And so they're bringing that into this relationship, and they're just going to have to talk about it and get to know each other and learn each other, from that perspective. So next we see Chloe and Latera talking, and that's when Chloe finds out she wasn't even invited to the spa day. So they sort of recap what happened at the spa day. And Chloe was like, girl, Ro is just, don't worry about Ro. She's a little rough around the edges, but she don't mean no harm. And as far as, Eminem is concerned, child, it ain't that deep either. Okay, it ain't that deep. Then we see the same thing with Ro talking to Eminem. And she lets her know that she didn't really appreciate the comments about her looking young, and she does sort of explain it. And Ro was like, girl, I get it. Because people say I got resting bitch face. And I don't think I'm a mean person, but so I understand, right? She didn't necessarily take offense to it, but I think she's used to people feeling like she comes off a certain way. So she can receive it differently. I don't know. Then we saw her go to therapy. Ro, that is. And I think therapy is always a great thing. She said it was her first time going, but I feel like she spent a lot of time in her therapy session talking about recent things, not so much about like I feel like she and I know it's television, so they might have edited certain more personal things out. But I feel like we learned more about Ro when she was talking to the ladies and talking about dating the drug dealer and all of that than we did in the therapy session. But again, I understand that maybe some personal things were said that they sort of edited out. So next we get down to the ladies are having a crawfish broil down to Labria's house. And all the ladies, Chloe bring her man. And I'm certain that Chloe brought her man specifically to let the ladies know, when I say I don't like fine, I mean that I didn't think her husband was fine, it's because this is what I think is fine. Listen, both of those men I think are nice looking men. And I hate when we feel like we have to compare. But I feel like, Chloe, what you said was offensive, but I feel like what you meant was he not my type. And that's all you had to say was he's not my type. I don't think nobody would have been offended by that. But to make it seem like he's not attractive while you're literally sitting across from a woman who married him, who clearly thinks he's attractive, who clearly thinks he's fine. I think that was rude. Now, Eminem decides to confront Lataria. Lati, I'm gonna just have to call her Lati because I know I'm saying her name wrong. She decides to she decides to confront her, and she got a little offended by it because she was like, "Girl, I said something about your age twice," and she was like, "No, you didn't. You said it multiple times." Now, to be fair, in the editing, we only saw 2. But again, I always have to take into account that maybe we ain't see everything. Maybe some stuff was edited and we ain't see all that was edited. Okay, but to be fair. So then we got old girl there with her husband that's sleeping in a different bedroom. And Lati, she want to start talking to her about, so y'all gonna do anything for y'all anniversary? And my thing is this: when you have a married couple that you know are going through something, you don't need to know all of their details. You don't have to have all of the information. But I feel like that woman has shared enough with y'all for y'all to understand that things in their marriage is not great right now. And I feel like it wasn't needed. Especially once you threw it out there and you heard the hesitation, you sort of felt the hesitation in her voice. I feel like leave it alone. But, I guess it wouldn't be a reality show if we don't push the envelope a little bit. But anyway. So we start episode 4. That takes us into episode 4. So we start episode 4 off. We have Chloe going out with her man Jordan. I felt like this, it was just a regular scene for us to see her and Jordan hanging out. But what we find out is that Jordan sort of has an issue with Chloe's son. He said, "Listen, your son living in the basement. When are you gonna make him be self-sufficient? When are you gonna make him, get his own and get out and get on his own?" And Chloe was like, "Listen, he went through a lot when my husband died. He gave up a lot to help me with my kids, to help me mourn." And he was like, "Okay, but he a grown ass man. I get it. He did a lot, but let's go. He need to get up, get out, and get something." Okay. I feel him on that. I feel him on that. Especially later on in this episode when we find out that he really ain't doing nothing. Now, I could see if I felt like he was being hard on him, but I don't really feel like he was being hard on him. Let me put a pin in that. Let me go back to the last episode for a second. Labria was talking to is it Chuck? She was talking to him. And I loved how Chloe walked up and was like, "You good over here?" And Labrina was like, "I'm good. I'm just making sure he good and that he coming correct." Baby, I loved how Chloe turned around and was like, "Carry on." See, that's what a friend does. Because, see, she knows that you are not coming at her from a bad place. Okay? She knows that you looking out for her and you being a good girlfriend. She said, "Carry on." I love that. So then we saw Lati talking to her therapist. I feel like her therapist gave her some good advice. Her therapist said exactly what I just said, which was, you don't know what you may not be fully aware of the triggers that are connected to Eminem's, to those comments, and so you know what your baggage is and why you feel the way you feel when people kind of say that you are aggressive and that certain things you're saying, but you don't know why that is necessarily a trigger for her. Okay. So she said she would talk to her, and that was some good advice, yada, yada, yada. So next we see Eminem going out to date night with her husband and her mama. Now, I told y'all 2 episodes ago, I felt like this was a 4th storyline, and I still feel like this is a 4th storyline. I do not feel like your mama and your husband really have a issue. I feel like your mom and your husband aren't close. And I do feel like there may have been times where your mom might have complained to you about some things with your husband. And I feel like there may have been some times when your husband may have complained about some things to you about your mama. But here's the reality. That is what's going to happen when you put your husband and your mama in the same household. They're going to come to you because you are the middle person. You can't force them to have a relationship. It doesn't sound like they're disrespectful to each other. It doesn't sound like they fight and argue and cuss each other out. It just sounds like they're not that close. Now, it did sound like the mama felt like sometimes you're real busy and it seems like you're too busy. You don't always want to have a conversation. You're not always the easiest person to have a conversation with. And what the husband was saying was, well, listen, I got a lot going on. I got a lot on my plate. I'm trying to run these businesses. Basically, I'm trying to make sure that the bills are paid. And then the mom went on to say, well, listen, I think you've been a great husband. I think that you're a great dad. I love how you take care of my daughter. I love how you love on my daughter. And I think you're a great, great person. So I feel like that was a good conversation. But I don't know if I feel like they need to have a special, date night for all of that. But, whatever. So then we get to Labrina with her husband. Come to find out, she's got an older son from, I guess, a previous relationship. And he he lives half the time with her and half the time with his father. And it sounds like he's not doing well because he's with his father now. His grades are slipping and he's getting in trouble in school. And she's saying how she wants to try to see if he could just come and stay with them full time again. Unfortunately, that's probably not going to be realistic. Like, he's getting older. Even if you take the father to court, he's old enough now that the judge is going to say, who do you want to live with? Or, unless there's just some straight up abuse or neglect. His grades dropping aren't necessarily neglect. I don't think a judge's first response is going to be, oh, well, you need to go live with your mom full time. I think there'll be some other layers to it first. She just said that things are just a lot more relaxed at the dad's house, and they might be. But let me tell you, coming from a teacher, coming from an educator, coming from somebody who does this for a living, if he lives 1 week with you and 1 week with the dad, or 2 weeks with you and 2 weeks with the dad, his grades ain't slipping just because he's with his dad for 2 weeks. That means that his grades are slipping even when he's under your roof. His grades are slipping even when he's with you, which means it's a bigger conversation and it's a bigger picture. You can't just put that all on the dad. I'm telling you what I know. You can't put all that on the dad. Later on in the episode, we see her talking to her father, her stepmother, and her mom. And I feel like she's blaming some things. I feel like she's one of the people that don't want to take responsibility for her part in any of it. Because she was saying how she got pregnant at a young age and basically her family put her out when they needed her most. Baby stepmama was like, because there were rules and you didn't want to follow the rules, so you had to go. She was like, but you knew I had a son and you knew I was struggling, And the stepmama was like, which is all the more reason why you should have been following the rules. She said, listen, at the end of the day, you could have came back home. You just had to follow the rules. And she was like, I ain't want to come back home. Exactly. You didn't want to come back home. Exactly. Anyway. So, Labrina, again, girl, I feel like I'm looking at you side-eye because I feel like you're trying to make something somebody else's fault that ain't somebody else's fault. So then we have Nico and Chloe. Now, Nico is Chloe's son. Listen, let me tell y'all something. I be so sick of hearing these kids talking about they want to be a rapper, but they don't want to do rapping stuff. When y'all hear about, there are very few, I'm not going to say there aren't any because it happens in every industry. There are very few people who stumble into a successful rapping career. It takes hard work. It takes studio time. It takes learning your craft. It takes getting beats. It takes practice. It takes all of the things. It takes you doing free work, maybe going and performing for free at showcases and going to local clubs and local bars. This dude want to sit in the basement and talk about something. Well, you know, I want to be a rapper. And Chloe was like, well, when was the last time you went to the studio? That don't matter. That don't matter. See, but it does matter. So now I'm kind of with Chloe's boyfriend now. Now I'm like, what we doing? Because, and then this scene to me, again, y'all, I hate to say it, but this scene to me seemed very produced. And what I mean by produced, I mean produced from the standpoint of Chloe and her son. Because he was like, you know, I don't want to be around. I mean, because you dating dude. He like, what, 4 years older than me? Like that. She was like, what's that mean? That don't mean nothing. He was like, that's weird. What you mean? That's weird. It just seemed weird. And then he stumps off and Chloe was like, all right, then. Girl, what you mean, all right, then? Like, you don't get to just talk crazy to me in my house. What you mean, all right, then? That was weird for me. That scene is sat weird for me. Okay. Then we have the ladies getting together to have like a healing, whatever. Where Latiti, she apologizes to Eminem. She writes her a letter to apologize to her, and Eminem was like, girl, we really don't it's not that deep. Like, we really don't have to go that deep. You ain't gotta write me no letter and stuff. I just need you to understand why what you said was offensive, why it bothered me. But she let her read the letter, child, and they all were like, okay. Now Chloe, she done messed around and invited Shaniqua from the rodeo. And Shaniqua showed up on one. Now, I believe her name is Allison. Now, Allison done sat here and she didn't admit it. She ain't telling her friends everything that's going on with her husband. Child, we saw in the trailer your husband cheated, but we're going to put that to the side. But Shaniqua showed up on one. Why did Shaniqua show up on one? Because Chloe done messed around and told Shaniqua that Latiti didn't remember where she met her from. And Shaniqua got all her bee all in a bonnet and got all offended that this woman didn't remember where she knew her from. And she done went back to the damn Facebook page and then printed out messages to show that they've known each other. And Latiti was like, girl, I haven't talked to you in 10 years. But I feel like she was real polite about how she said it. And Shaniqua was like, so it doesn't matter that it's been 10 years. It doesn't matter that it's been 10 years since you met me. The point is you knew me and you're in PR, which means that you should be more respectful and more mindful of your relationships and da-da-da-da-da and yada, yada, yada and woo-da-woo-da-woo. And I was like, Shaniqua, you are doing a lot. And when she turned around and printed out the messages, I said, oh, you just trying to have a moment. Girl, you trying to have a moment. You are trying to be on TV and have a whole moment because there was no reason for you to show up on that. It was no reason for you to show up. Girl, there was no reason for you to show up like that. Then you had a nerve to turn around and Ro was like, girl, you being real extra. She gonna say, no, bitch. Ro was like, I'm sorry, who you talking to? And I felt like Ro was going to jump across that table and smack the shit out of her because I feel like that's the kind of person Ro is, that she'll jump across the table and smack the shit out of somebody. But to be fair, she did not. And that's kind of where the episode ended. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I feel like Shaniqua was doing a lot. I feel like she was trying to have a moment. She was trying to be on television. And Chloe, you was wrong because Chloe was like, damn, I did tell her that Latiti didn't remember her, but I didn't think it was gonna be all it is. Like, I didn't think it was that deep. It's not that deep. She wanted a moment. Anyway, y'all, that was it. Don't forget to join Monday nights at 8 o'clock tonight. We'll be on Josiah's channel. So meet me over there. Okay. I'm sorry, 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Okay. Peace.